I want you to take a second and think of the first 3 words that pop into your head when you hear the word I'm about to say. Ready? Millennial. Typically, when I ask this question, I get common negative responses like entitled, lazy, or unrealistic, and I get positive responses like quick or fast, efficient, and tech savvy. Interestingly, those who typically respond negatively are members of older generations, or baby boomers. Those who respond positively are typically younger people, or millennials. And of course, you have those who fall in the middle, both in terms of their responses and in terms of their age, Generation X. So, what is a millennial anyway? Millennials are defined as people who were born between 1981 and 1996. We've been a hot topic in recent years, and we are the most studied generation in history. We also make up the largest percentage of the workforce. Currently, millennials occupy 50% of the working population, and in 10 years will make up 75% of the professional landscape. So my question for you is, why are we still using common workplace practices that have been around the past 50 years when the primary working class demographic is so fresh and new? Unquestionably, millennials are a societal force unlike any other in history. But now, right now, there's a large gap between millennials and the other half of the working population. In fact, it's estimated that last year, the cost of millennial turnover cost the U.S. economy an estimated $30.5 billion. And statistics like these can contribute to the negative connotations that many people have of millennials, when in fact, it can be attributed to a redefining of priorities. Values are different, right? Because times have changed. In a recent Qualtrics study, it showed perceptions of the millennial generation are based on the differences in how they prioritize structure and processes. So, while older generations might value things like a fixed work schedule or dress codes and taking pride in your appearance, millennials don't really care about that stuff. We are more focused on end results and our individual contributions. So, with that, let's tackle some common millennial misconceptions. Misconception number 1, millennials are lazy. Workplace experts actually say that workaholics are common among 19 to 35-year-olds. We were highly scheduled in our teenage years, involved in numerous after-school activities, clubs, and organizations. We had to be, in addition to focusing on our academics, to get into a good college. Millennials aren't lazy. We're involved and dedicated when it's something we feel passionate about. Misconception number 2, millennials are entitled. We hear this one a lot, right? I'm looking at my parents sitting in the corner over there. Millennials were the first generation to have grown up with personal computers and smartphones. We have seen the rise of social media and the internet and have really nurtured them into what they are today. So basically, we aren't necessarily entitled. We're just really involved, and we've had instant digital gratification at our fingertips from a very young age. So not necessarily entitled, maybe efficient is a better word. And lastly, millennials are unrealistic. We hear this one a lot in the workplace when millennials are advocating for things that help bring a healthy work-life balance. So flex schedules or working remotely, for example. When 77% of millennials actually say that they feel more productive when they have some sort of flexible schedule because they're able to operate at their peak efficiency. Millennials aren't necessarily unrealistic. We're just communicative about our expectations. I'm not here to tell you to invest in beanbag chairs for the office or add a ping pong table or a cappuccino machine in the break room. That's not necessarily what millennials want. What I'm here to say is that there are intentional activities businesses can adopt in the workplace to really help bridge the gap. So let's tackle some of those. First, communicate the why. Millennials are driven by impact. We want to feel and know that the work we're doing contributes to the bigger picture and how. So communicating the why behind a project or initiative will really go a long way to helping us feel involved and invested with the outcome. Next, ask our opinion. With any successful project or endeavor, soliciting feedback from your peers and key stakeholders is essential to maximizing your end result. It's no different for millennials. Asking our opinion might help you see things from a new perspective or learn something new. Thirdly, give us experiences. Millennials place a lot of importance on finding passion and purpose in life. So allowing opportunities outside of a millennial's primary job function can really go a long way. Things like cross-training will really help you recruit and retain that millennial talent. And lastly, challenge convention with flexibility. And I think this is the most difficult one for organizations to wrap their head around, because we traditionally, as a historical working society, have convinced ourselves that employees are children. They need to be monitored, time-stamped, and reprimanded or written up if, heaven forbid, they arrive to the office 10 minutes late because of a traffic accident. We have to realize that this is no longer working. It's demotivating and discouraging. So allowing flexibility in work hours will really go a long way in establishing that mutual trust. I am a prime example of how adopting some of these practices in the workplace can help you retain millennial talent. I'm 26 years old, and I've had 3 jobs since college graduation. I've been part of organizations that don't necessarily foster millennial values, and it just doesn't work. I haven't necessarily been happy in those organizations, no matter how wonderful they've been. I can gladly say I'm now part of an organization that does. We focus so hard on culture and retention. We offer things like flexible work schedules, cross-training in other departments, and an open-door policy. And if a company that's been around for 60 years can do it, so can yours. We have to recognize that common workplace practices that have been around the past 50 years are no longer relevant or enticing for newer generations. It just doesn't work. In fact, the changes millennials are advocating for can be appreciated by everyone. We all tend to agree on what it takes to make us happy and productive during work hours. Millennials aren't just new. We're defining the new normal. At the end of the day, millennials want to be fairly compensated, feel like they're part of a strong, positive office culture, and feel that their work makes a difference. And that's something we can all agree with. Thank you.